Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Jersey Nerds podcast. It is Bpoe here, and we're going to be switching things up a little bit today under this new format. We have a couple new hosts, and we're just going to be going back and talking about a few of the things that we missed in our little hiatus over the season. So, to introduce our new hosts, we've got Chris. How you doing, Chris?
Doing all right, Bpoe. How are you?
Just hosting a podcast, Chris. It's a little bit weird because I've never done this before. And we also got Hunter. How you doing, Hunter?
Good.
Well thought out answer there.
Yep.
All right, so for this podcast, we're just going to go over a new host a little bit, introduce them to you guys, and then we're just going to go over the Winter Classic uniforms because I believe on our last Jersey Nerds podcast, we talked about the logos when they were unveiled, did not get to the uniforms at all, and then the Stadium Series uniforms, and then I think it would be remiss if we didn't touch on the current COVID-19 situation a little bit, considering how much it's affecting quite literally everything, everywhere. So let's start out. Either you guys want to go first?
I'll go.
All right. So,
yeah.
You want to just take it, or?
Yeah, let's just see what happens. So I'm Chris. I'm in and from California. I'm a graphic designer, and hockey jerseys are they're pretty cool. What else we want?
How old are you, Chris?
I am 22. In my prime.
All right. And your favorite team?
The LA Kings.
All right.
Hey,
about favorite?
seven
Sorry,
game
Ted.
win streak. 7-game win streak. LA Kings. It's still going.
Funny enough, I actually saw the other day on Reddit. It's like, you know how wrestling, you have like a championship belt that you win from everybody. So for example, if you were to do that with the St. Louis Blues this year and just keep going on like who beat them and just keep passing the belt, Kings are the Stanley Cup champions this year.
Of course they are.
Because why not?
Well,
All right, Chris, any social media accounts you'd like to plug for the listeners to connect with you?
for now, let's stick with the Instagram at Chris Ramirez Creative.
All right, sounds good. Hunter, how about you?
Well, my name's Hunter. I'm 25. I am in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. My favorite team is the Ottawa Senators, of course. Kind of hurts right now, but I mean, you know, we've had some success in the years before. Not really much that you want to write home about right now, though. In terms of social media accounts or anything like that, you can always get in touch with me on Twitter at OpenSeason39, OPENSZN39.
All right, sounds good, guys. So, everybody, warm welcome to our new hosts. In the future, it may or may not be just them two. They're going to be running the podcast mainly, and anybody else who's part of the Jersey Nerds podcast crew here is always welcome to hop on. But in the future, you may just have a conversation with them too. So now we're going to move on to the Winter Classic uniforms that we missed. It was Dallas and Nashville, of course. Dallas green jerseys with tan pants and gloves, although different shades of like a tan or canvas color. You know, the logo, the Dallas Texans throwback. A lot of people say it looks like Steelers. And Nashville, you've got white jerseys, blue pants with a yellow chest stripe, yellow arm stripes, hem stripe, I guess, blue trim around it all. And yeah, I thought that was a pretty nice looking matchup overall. How about you guys? What are your thoughts on these?
Yeah, I mean, overall, enjoyable matchup. It's nice to see those colors shown off. That's definitely, you know, it's a good green that Dallas had on. You know, like you said, the different colors of pants and gloves. You know, it's a little off-putting. You know, it bothers you a little when you see it, especially seeing those gloves. They're very yellowish, and they really stood out on the TV broadcast. And yeah, me personally, looking at Nashville, really like how those colors look there. You know, interesting decision to have this, you know, the giant yellow stripe across the jersey and then not have it go around to the back. But, you know, definitely a very classic looking matchup.
See, I think that having the chest stripe cut off was a pretty poor decision. I mean, it's still not a bad looking jersey by any means. I think a lot of people really underrate it because I know a lot of people didn't like this jersey. But if you're going for a classic look like that, I think you got to keep, keep that historical basis in there and wrap the chest stripe around the whole way. If you're going for like a modern faux back, then I think that's fine. But this is the Winter Classic we're talking about here, you know?
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels like a faux back. It's not quite old timey and it's not quite current either. It's kind of it's in limbo.
And with the stars too, you did bring us up a little bit with the different colored pants and gloves. I think that whenever it was first unveiled, I was like, okay, I don't mind this. It does kind of add that little historical touch. But, seeing it in action, it was just really jarring for me, and I think it would have looked a lot better if they just kept. I don't even care which color they pick. I think it would have just looked a lot better if they picked one of the two and rolled with it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Got any thoughts on her?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more about the color of the pants and the gloves. That, like, looking at this photo, it's just super weird. In terms of the Nashville jersey, like, they're not an old team, and I know that they were basing the jersey off of the Dixie Flyers, old school ones that they had before, at least with that script part in the front. But I gotta give them props for coming up with like kind of a throwback feel with those logos on the helmet and on the shoulder, because they're coming up with something completely new. But they did a pretty good job of coming up with something that kind of still has like a throwback kind of feel for a team that doesn't have a lot of history behind it yet.
Yeah, with that shoulder patch logo, it's a good faux back, but it also scares me to death. It's a terrifying looking thing. If the blue and the yellow were inverted on that, it might look a little less off, like terrifying. But
Yeah.
But yeah, they did a good job overall with the Winter Classic, I think.
Yeah, that shoulder patch logo, I love it for the Winter Classic, but a lot of people were calling that for it to be their new primary logo and that it's better than their current one. I can't agree with that.
No.
What do you guys think about that?
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
I've seen it on like some concepts and things since, and I'm just like, it's a little much.
Yeah, no. I even tried to make one of like an alternate jersey using it the other day, and I still ended up with a jersey that has more of a throwback feel to it than anything. Like it's not gonna work as a full-time logo, I don't think.
I definitely think it could work on a full-time alternate if it was like a throwback or faux back type of alternate.
Yeah.
I guess it couldn't really be a throwback because that logo never existed before, but like a faux back type of alternate. But that's about it. I don't think that could make a good primary for them. I think it looks, too dated, which for what they was designed for, perfect.
Yeah. Full-time? Not really.
Yep.
Something else I was going to say, but I can't remember anymore.
Well, I will say, looking at Nashville's jerseys in these photos, like looking at them on the ice, they look a lot better than they did when I first saw them. Because when I first saw them, I'll say I was pretty whelmed. Like, I'm not a huge fan of script logos to begin with, and the biggest thing that every Sens fan had to deal with was those stupid Sens jerseys that we had back in like 2008. So, yeah. Team nicknames and script logos have a very sore spot in my heart.
Well, at least Nashville didn't really use a nickname.
Yeah.
A little bit off topic, but were the Sens the first to do that? Because then you had Sens and then eventually Caps. And
I think that
Canes.
I think that Tampa Bay's black version of the Bolts jersey came out before the Sens one did. But like they both came out the same season.
Okay.
I don't think Ottawa did it first.
I kind of wonder if they did that in cohesion then, or if it was just kind of like each team individually happened to come across the same conclusion or same idea.
Yeah, no. It definitely seems like something maybe like Tampa was talking about it and like their GM might have mentioned it and then, Melnick jumped on board.
Was Melnick with the Senators that early?
Yeah.
That long ago?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Huh. Never really heard about him until not too long ago. But then again, I'm only 21 right now, so around that time, I would have been way too young to really follow the metaphysics of the sport.
Oh, he was pretty quiet for a long time, actually, because he owned the team whenever they went to the Cup final in 2007 too. Like he owned them. I think he's owned them since 2003 at this point.
Oh wow.
But yeah, no, he was pretty quiet like when they were successful, and here we are now.
Yeah. Everything was going so good for the Senators until, he started talking again this year.
Yeah.
He was just in the background, and then all of a sudden he's in the limelight again, and there it goes again.
Yeah. We had almost a full season of just no controversy whatsoever.
Almost.
We almost made it.
Back on topic a little bit, though. Back to those Dallas jerseys. I remember what I was going to say. I mentioned it in the intro of the segment a little bit. The STDers, or the Sturders. That honestly never bothered me. A lot of people mentioned it. I think it makes a lot of sense. The faux back logo makes perfect sense with the Texans. And I honestly have never read it as Sturders at all. How about you guys? What are your thoughts on that topic?
I mean, no, I don't read it that way either. And I think it looks great on the Winter Classic uniform. If they'd used, a modified version of their current logo, I feel like it would have looked out of place. So this older looking logo definitely looks good on it.
Yeah, I have to agree. I don't think I've ever read them that way. I think if you've known about the stars long enough, that they always try to use that star as the A in their logo, so like you should know better by now than to read it as the Stiders.
I wonder if honestly people on Twitter at least started saying that as just like to stir the pot a little bit and didn't actually believe that,
Oh, probably.
There's always something to complain about.
It's Twitter.
Yeah. Like, I kind of wonder if it started as, like, let's just stir the pot a little bit, and then some people actually were like, you know what, they're right, and actually legitimately believed it.
Yeah.
Almost reminds me of the retinas in a way, which is a lot easier to read that logo as a retinas, but even that one I still think is fine because it's a throwback, that one I guess is more of a throwback than anything. All right, any last thoughts on the Winter Classic jerseys here? And then we'll get to some ratings.
We were just talking about, the team nicknames on there, and if these jerseys had said Preds on them, they would have been pretty bad. They would have made them pretty darn bad. So,
I wonder if that's the type of thing we're going to do like 20, 30 years from now, like a throwback or a faux back, and you have like a Penguins jersey that says Pens on it.
Oof.
But then you're just advertising pens at that point.
Bic.
Yeah.
The pen. That 2012 meme that always goes around whenever the Penguins and Capitals play each other, the pens and the caps, but like legitimately. Yeah. By that point, advertising has taken over all professional sports, and that all of those games are sponsored by Bic or some other pen company, Paper Mate or something like that. The pens and the caps. I'm
scared of that day.
I feel like that's a conversation for another day. Honestly. The advertising outbreak. Oh, boy. So, if we're going to get into ratings. Chris, how about you? We'll start with you.
For the Dallas overall, I'm going to give them a 7 out of 10. This is a really, really nice thing to look at. Once again, the color, the pants and gloves being different is a little off-putting. I think the stripe on the socks are a little larger than on the stripes on the jerseys. But overall, this is, it's pleasant to look at. And then Nashville, I'll probably give them a 5.5 out of 10 because, it's a good looking jersey. They nailed the faux back look for sure. But just that shoulder patch, I'm not still completely sold on. And, the script logo on front, good job throwing back, but, you could have experimented a little more, I guess, in the Winter Classic. But still, a nice thing to see overall. And I'm glad they didn't go all white, because teams have done that for so many outdoor games, and it needs to die.
I think the reason some teams have gone all white for those games is because it's a stadium series, and, the Winter Classic they've always kept more reserved for good reason. Hunter, how about you? Let's hear your ratings on these two jerseys.
Dallas definitely a 7 out of 10. I agree with everything Chris said. The colors of the gloves and the pants are kind of a drawback for me, but overall I think it's a solid jersey. When you look into the finer details, yeah, the stripe on the socks not matching the stripes on the jersey in thickness is just kind of weird as well, but I mean, that's minor details when you really get to the nitty gritty. In terms of Nashville, I'm gonna have to give them probably like a 6 out of 10. I don't think it's a bad jersey. I don't think it's fantastic, but I also don't think it's like meh either. Like there's some very good positives to it, and there's some very obvious negatives to it as well. So I'm gonna give them props again for doing something special with those logos. I think I'm happy that they used them just as a shoulder patch and a helmet decal, because like really that's the perfect place for them in terms of this jersey. You're right. Like I don't think it could be used as a full-time primary logo, because you're right, it'll get dated really quick. But I feel like they did a really good job pulling off that faux back theme for a Winter Classic game.
Well, apparently I think a little bit higher these jerseys than you guys do. My rating for Dallas, I'd have to give it an 8.5. I really love these jerseys and this whole uniform in general. The only thing that I really don't like is the gloves and the pants mismatching, but honestly, that's a pretty minor detail, at least for me personally. Again, it would look a lot better if they matched it, but I can at least see the historical precedent for doing it that way. Nashville, I'll have to give it 7 out of 10. It's again not really a jersey that wows me in any way, but it's still a very solid look, and I think completing that chest stripe would end up, bringing it all together a lot more than it does right now. So moving on to the Stadium Series, we had that take place just last month here, and we got LA versus Colorado, and these ones are way out of the box compared to, honestly, pretty much any hockey jersey you've ever seen, at least ice hockey. Both of the jerseys are split in half one way or another. You've got LA with a diagonal split. You've got the front of the jersey that says LA on it with some streaks coming out of it, kind of like the Kings' old logo, or even the Lakers. Colorado, you've got the front logo of sorts kind of blending in with the collar, just like a giant mountain, a giant A. And Colorado is just their blue, their maroon, red, and white, and then LA is just black, white, a little bit of gray in there. And very notable for LA is the the chrome buckets. And Colorado, like last year's Stadium Series, has a giant helmet logo on that one. So how about this? Hunter, we'll throw this one to you first. What do you think about these ones?
I feel like they're both great jerseys for a Stadium Series game. The biggest thing about the Stadium Series for me is that teams do something outside the box, and I'm glad that both these teams ran with it. The chrome buckets on LA's jerseys are fantastic. I love the idea. I don't think it meshes very well with the rest of the uniform, but I'm here for it. Overall, I have the Colorado one at home already. I like the use of negative space, but I can see everybody's gripe that it looks like a bib with the white part running all the way up to the collar portion. So I feel like maybe there could have been some small things that they could have done to change that to make it look a little better, but overall still I think it's a pretty neat jersey.
Yeah, I definitely see the bib in that one. It was a lot more prevalent in the leak of it than it actually is on ice.
Yeah.
But it's still there a little bit. Chris, any thoughts?
Looking at Colorado, this is a good jersey overall. I like their use of, the blue and the red, really making those colors stand out because they don't stand out as much in their normal set. The giant mountain A is a little much. I feel like that could have been, like we said, good job trying something new, bringing that all the way to the collar. I felt like that could have been scaled down a little bit, or maybe that they had another A logo they created for the Stadium Series that could have been thrown on there. And then I'm really thrown off by the giant helmet logos that have gone on in the Stadium Series, including this one. It just feels like way too much to me. But overall, it's a solid set. And then with my LA Kings, definitely the worst Stadium Series uniform we've had. By far. I mean, you've got these chrome helmets, but then the only other gray I see on the uniform is a little on the gloves and a little on the socks. And so it just kind of baffles me that there's really no balance of colors. What these uniforms remind me of are those black and white cookies. The cookie's half black and it's half white. That's what these feel like to me. They made the numbers white, which is probably the better decision. But the bottom half of the jersey is white, so sometimes it's a little hard to read, or at least it was when the game was on. And I am kind of a fan of the logo they threw on the front, just taking the LA and adding motion lines to it. So overall, Colorado's was definitely a better jersey, but hey, it's not Stadium Series. That's when you try something new, and they tried it.
Yeah, I definitely can't discredit the NHL or either of these teams for going out of the box at all. Even if the jerseys didn't turn out great, I love whenever teams step outside the box and do something new, because that's really the only new way to innovate. Whenever you mentioned the numbers, it made me think, I wonder if they could use chrome numbers and tie it in with the helmet a little bit. That way the helmet doesn't look so out of place. And, it kind of does still have that light tone to it, so it's not going to blend perfectly with the white, but it'll probably stand out a little bit more against the white than white does. And whenever you bring up the cookie, it also made me think that looking at it with the black skates, and it kind of looks like a double stacked Oreo. Like you have an Oreo on the bottom, and then cream, and then another Oreo cookie, and then cream again, and then the Oreo on top.
So now LA holds title to the Burger King and the double stacked Oreo jerseys. I love it.
LA is just the food jerseys.
Food jersey specialists.
All right, somebody needs to start a concept series where they just start making LA jerseys based off of different foods.
Okay, well, outside of the numbers, what do you guys think they could have done to add more of the silver to the jersey to make it not so glaring differently?
Chrome pants.
Chrome pants?
I literally just thought of this. I don't know if I would hate it though.
Hey man,
I was half shit posting with that. I don't know if I'd hate it.
We've been saying it. It's a Stadium Series. You got to try it once.
Even better, chrome skates.
In general, if you're like a helmet that's the same color as the pants, usually that looks good, and so that's a possibility. I feel like there just needed to be some silver on the jersey as well, whether that's a stripe underneath the black part or just making the whole white part into black, or like you said, maybe chrome numbers. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it needed more. It was just the black and just the white, super high contrast. So.
Yeah.
And always a little boring.
Thinking about it, this would be really bold, and I'm not sure how possible it would even be. But imagine they went chrome buckets, chrome numbers, chrome gloves, chrome pants, chrome skates, and chrome sticks even. Like, imagine that.
I'm so down. Let's do it.
Oh.
I would be down to see that for a game. It's like in SpongeBob, the future.
Everything's chrome in the future.
That's what the Stadium Series is all about, baby.
Really fun to see. I don't know how possible it is to do it with some of those pieces of equipment, and if especially the gloves, I don't know if the material that would actually allow it to be that reflective.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to see, that's for sure.
Well, it looks like on the picture, at least, they had put some chrome on the gloves, but yeah, it's not super reflective. It's more like gray.
Yeah. I don't think it's really chrome. I think it is just gray.
So yeah.
What are our thoughts on the white gloves in LA?
I dig it.
I don't mind it. I mean, I don't love white gloves in general, but I think there's some cases where it works. I think it works fine here. I actually kind of almost think it might work better than black gloves just because it meshes with the bottom half of that LA jersey.
Now, with the way the stripe runs across the jersey and the sleeve ends white on one sleeve and black on the other, what if they went one white glove, one black glove?
That would be something.
Oh man, that'd be crazy.
You just have
just start throwing rainbow gear in there. Why not? Just like a red glove, one blue glove, the black and white jersey. We're gonna go green pants. How about that? Chrome bucket. One white skate and one black skate.
Yellow socks. Let's do it.
One yellow, one orange sock.
Yeah.
It's like that guy in Beer League who just has a bunch of equipment thrown together.
Your LA Kings.
I will say about the Avs, the helmets, as much as, like, I'm not a huge fan of the giant logos on the helmet, like the whole lacrosse style helmet kind of feel that they're going for. I would have rather that they just put the logo on both sides instead of putting the logo on one side and the numbers on the other. Like, just commit to the logo.
That would have been quite a commitment.
Right?
I don't know if I want to agree or disagree because looking at it, like, the side of the numbers does not look bad at all.
No, so, like, either go just numbers.
The other side, it's just like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, I like the idea of those giant logos in theory. The problem is, hockey helmets have so many bumps and crevices and, whatnot, that you can't just apply a flat decal and it just distorts everything. It just doesn't work that way for hockey helmets.
Well, like, I like the idea of the numbers on the helmet because the whole thing about the Stadium Series was that they wanted to make the numbers bigger so that people in the crowd could see better, right? So,
yeah.
like, but just commit to one or the other. Don't do both. Like, either do a logo on both sides or do numbers on both sides. I don't know. It just looks weird having one of each.
We're going to make the numbers bigger so people can see them. So you know what else we're going to do? We're going to add a really small number that nobody's going to be able to see.
Perfect.
There you go.
At this point, just like have the numbers take up the entire back of the jersey. Just stretch the numbers to go down the entire arm.
Into the pants. Keep them going.
The whole backside of the
Just
jersey.
like, just in, like all the black on the jersey or any color in the jersey is made of a bunch of tiny little numbers.
Oh boy.
Oh my god.
All right, this has gone off the rails a little bit, but I think it's been a quite enjoyable conversation here. Any other last thoughts before we get to the ratings?
I hope we never see these again.
I mean,
Didn't one of them already wear it again inside?
Yeah, the Kings wore it at home against New Jersey, and it was
That's what I thought.
yeah, because New Jersey had to wear red on the road because of the Kings wearing these jerseys that are half white. So that was kind of cool to see, color on the road again. But yeah,
Yeah, not too long ago, before the season ended, the Penguins and the Sabres played, and the Sabres wearing their 50th uniforms, and the Penguins they were home, so the Penguins had to bring their blacks, which I was okay with because I love those 50th anniversary uniforms. But again, that's another topic for another time.
mm-hmm.
They're so good. But yeah, another
Anything
time.
else or rating time?
I think it's rating time.
Rating time.
All right, Chris, how about we start off with you then?
Okay, for Colorado, I think I'll go with a 6.5 out of 10. Like I said, I really like their use of color. That blue looks really nice. The striping on the jersey is good, but once again, all the things we've said, the giant A, it's probably just a little too large. The giant A on the helmet is kind of ridiculous. But overall, it did not look bad on the ice. And so, when the leak came out, people were like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. But no, you got to see it on the ice to really get a full idea of what it's supposed to be. And for the Stadium Series uniforms of my LA Kings, I'm going to give these a 3 out of 10.
Oof.
I want to like them, but the more I look at them, the more I just can't. The problems we've talked about, being able to read the numbers when they're white on white with a little black outline. The double stacked Oreo jerseys, as we're now calling them, or I guess the whole uniform's the Oreo anyway. They don't quite do it for me.
All right, Hunter, how about you? What are your ratings on these two jerseys?
Well, for the Kings, I'll probably give them a 4.5 out of 10. They're not my favorite stadium jerseys. I again, I like the fact that they went a little different direction. I like the chrome helmets, but they definitely needed to add chrome somewhere else on the uniform other than the socks to kind of bring it all together. In terms of the abs, I'm going to give these guys an 8. I really like these jerseys. I can even live with the fact that it kind of looks like a bib, like I agree that the A is probably a little too large for the jersey, but I'm a huge fan of the use of negative space, and I think overall, like, those look really good on the ice, so I'm going to go with an 8 for those.
All right, good thoughts, guys. I'm personally going to give these both a 6. I think both of them have their negatives and positives. They each, in a vacuum, I don't think they're, the greatest looking things, but they always get a couple extra points from me for innovating and stepping outside the box. And Colorado, I forgot to mention, I love how well they integrated the logo into the collar, even though, again, it looks a little bit like a bib. They integrated it really well, for sure. I mean, it perfectly matches the slope of that Pentagon collar. And I don't know if we'll ever see a team do that again. But, yeah, I think, giving it a 6 pretty evens out the not the best aesthetics versus the, innovation for it. And I think they're very good for a one-game stand, as I'll call it.
For sure.
Yeah, agreed.
So now that we moved on to that, we'll move on to the elephant in the room here, COVID-19. Just a couple days ago, as we're recording this on March 15th, and just a few days ago, the NBA suspended the remainder of their season indefinitely with intent to return, and hours later, the NHL, followed in their footsteps and did the same. And since then, pretty much every other sports league, from college, NBA, or college, like March Madness is canceled, or D2, like my school, we're done for the season. CHL, ECHL, AHL, all of the European hockey leagues, or a lot of them, have all, in some way, shape, or form, canceled or suspended their seasons for the time being. A lot of schools have been shutting down or moving to online classes, both before and after all of the sports leagues have, taken their actions. And it's a crazy time we're living in, guys. Huh?
Wild.
Unprecedented. Yeah, it's a lot. It really is. Especially when you're a sports fan, and then suddenly a lot of people are stuck at home now, and you think, oh, what am I going to do? Normally you'd watch sports, but there are no sports.
At least no live sports, anyways.
Time for me to go back and watch that 07 Cup run, baby.
Yeah, I might have to find the 2014 Cup final somewhere. God.
I just rewatched them towards the beginning of last semester, and I might have to break out the Penguins 2016 and 17 Cup DVDs again, even though I just rewatched them. It's funny how 2020 has been crazy already too, because I just saw a TikTok not too long, like yesterday, that was like, man, it's like a dude who just woke up from a coma for like 3 months. It's like, oh wow, just in time for March Madness. Nope, that's canceled. What? Well, I'm gonna have to. I guess I can watch the NBA or the NHL because those seasons are winding down. Oh nope, those are canceled too. Man, that's nuts. Has Kobe got anything to say about that? Oh, buddy. So it's just been a crazy year just in general already, especially in the sports world. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, all these leagues canceling. It's nice to see here and there these owners, these management, stepping up to pay their workers that would have been working at the arenas. People are trying to get some positive out of all this, which is good to see.
It's definitely nice to see at least some people, coming together and just unifying. It's, not a good time at all, but at least we can grab some positive out of it like that. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of a community in sports, and hopefully, people have been able to rally together. It is kind of, it's rough in general. We don't know what the impacts of this will be, or how long this lack of normalcy is going to last. So
I think that's the toughest thing. Nobody knows how long it's going to keep going. Like, I mean, right now, I believe, what, didn't they just, well, no, aren't they suspended indefinitely, right? They didn't, I know the MLB announced, like, uh, opening day is delayed by 2 weeks, but I believe NBA, NHL just said indefinitely, right?
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
both those leagues have
And
been suspended until further notice. Essentially, some of the leagues have just pushed major events back. What was it the other day? Oh, the KHL hasn't actually suspended anything yet, but one of their teams forfeited their round 2 playoff matchup because they didn't want to play. So
I believe that was Joker, right? I just saw something about that.
yeah, so Joker had basically backed out, but they haven't suspended play yet, so they'll probably just keep going forward. I know the UFC hasn't had any intention of stopping at all. They have an event coming up in London, I believe, and they were told that they can't get the fighters from the States into London to do the fight, so they're gonna move the fight somewhere else that they can get everybody to go to.
And, like, they're going to actually bring the crowds in as well?
No, they don't.
Not just-
They've been doing it without crowds. They had a fight night yesterday,
Okay.
actually, that I watched. That it was pretty weird because they had the ref and the announcer yelling like they usually do, but it was like twice as loud as usual because there was nobody in the building other than the fighters and the training staff.
Yeah, that seems surreal because just the night that, or just the day that the NHL, announced the season is suspended, the Penguins and Blue Jackets were slated to play an empty arena that night. And I was honestly looking forward to see that just because of how weird it would be. But, I obviously understand the precautions being taken and, completely understand all of this. I mean,
Yeah.
there was a quote that I saw, I believe it was in Steve Dangle's video about this, but it was something along the lines of, look, whenever we look back on it, taking the right precautions is going to look like an overreaction. If this doesn't spread or if this doesn't get too much worse and it turns out to be relatively okay, it might look like an overreaction,
But we
But
made the right
looking
call.
back on it, if we didn't take these precautions, who knows what might happen,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, it's pretty crazy because I could be wrong, but what I've heard is that the only time the NHL has had any stoppage like this has been the lockouts and 1918 when there was an epidemic then.
Yeah, it was the
Wow.
1919
19.
Stanley Cup was canceled, I think 5 games in. I think one of the games was a tie. So the 2 teams are tied, and one of the players got sick with the Spanish influenza, and that ended up just canceling the whole cup. It's nuts how it's basically it seems like every 100 years one of these are hitting from what I've seen.
Yeah. I saw a
At
post
the
about
very
that the
least,
other day.
it's 1919 and then 2020. That's about 100 years again.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, it's crazy how much it affects, consuming hockey. There is no hockey to consume. I was gonna go to a Kings Ducks watch party the other day, and of course that's canceled because there's no Kings Ducks game. And I don't know about you, one of my favorite times of year is Stanley Cup playoffs. Whether your team's in it or not, it's just a different level of hockey, and it's incredible to watch.
Yep.
And we might not have that anytime soon.
Nope. It's crazy to
Yes.
see how differently some leagues are reacting to, because you have leagues like the KHL that are refusing to shut down, and then you have other leagues like the CHL in general. They've basically told their players to go home. They're like, go see your families. Now, it's a different point because these kids are all like, 15, 16, 17, go see your mom, go see your dad, whatever. But it's just funny because, like, to me, them telling all the players to go home makes me feel like they don't know when this is going to end. So, like, there's no plan ahead. But then other leagues are basically playing as is, like, nothing's going on.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like play the big like NHL and NBA, how just interconnected everything is. I mean, the first NBA patient zero was Rudy Gobert, who at this point his story has been publicized pretty well. You can find a lot about that.
Yep.
But just in the couple days before he was, diagnosed with COVID-19, he played in New York, Boston, Detroit, I believe it was, and Toronto, or at least played those teams. And all 4 of those have NHL teams. All 4, so they use the same buildings, a lot of them. So just one player in any of those leagues just getting the virus just can spread like mad. So it only just took that one domino to fall, really.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly everything changed, how quickly everything was suspended. But they're taking the precautions they feel are necessary and are allowed to go on.
Yeah. Kind of speaking of that, again, we have no idea when this might end, when the leagues might be able to come back if they are. But just NHL wise, what do you guys think the NHL might do? Let's say they come back in a couple weeks here, everything's cleared up. What do you think they might do for the rest of the season? If they're going to even play out the rest of the season, or are they just going to start the playoffs right away? How are they going to seed teams, so on and so forth? What do you guys think they might do?
I have no idea because there's so many logistical factors that go into scheduling games and playing games, and so I don't know what they're going to do. It'd be a lot of people have said if you just ended the season and say, okay, these are the playoff teams, but it'd be really hard to coordinate the last 2-3 weeks of the season to go on. And have to reschedule every single one of those games. And like Bettman said, they're trying to find a way to award the Stanley Cup at the end of the season. Hopefully that happens, but if they can't play any more games, then it might not happen. Some people say, oh, you should award it to the team that has the most points. That's crazy. You need to have a playoffs. So if they can have playoffs, that'll be great, and if not, then they won't.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of things floated around, like have literally every team except for Detroit in the like a round robin playoffs, and Detroit not just ripping on them for no reason because they actually at this point are the only team mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. So it wasn't just like screw Detroit. There was actually that's actually reason behind throwing them out. Some have even had Detroit in it and give like Boston a bye to the next round since they're first in the league right now, something like that, or just regular playoff format, just arrange teams by point percentage. It's 8 teams each side, and then like maybe best of 3, best of 3, best of 5, best of 7, ton of stuff like that. But at this point, you've got to expect either the remainder of this season or part of next season, or both, is going to be shortened in some way, shape, or form, because the players can't just hop back into this season, play the rest of it, end in like mid-late July, and then come back 2 months later.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd want to see them come back in and just play the rest, but I also don't really like the idea of jumping right into the playoffs either, because there's a lot of teams that were in a pretty tight battle for those last spots. So like that makes it a little tough for me at least. At the very least, depending on the time frame, like maybe they could jump back into it like there was a 2-week break for Olympics and just forget about all the games that were supposed to be played now and just pick the schedule up where it left off. Like don't play the games that we've already missed, but pick up where the schedule would have been by the time they come back.
Yeah, I guess some of the biggest problems with that were just having to juggle the games played for each team. But again, points percentage can definitely solve that to some degree.
Yeah.
Because just looking at like the Eastern Conference picture, in the wild card you have Carolina with 81 points at the first wild card, Columbus at 81, New York Islanders at 80, Rangers at 79, Florida at 78 right now. And all of these teams have different amounts of games played as well. You've got, just going in order, 8, 69, nice. So all of these teams were very well in the race. So I've also seen the idea floated around of like, and yeah, again, the race in the West is pretty close as well. I'm not going to go over that because you can look at the standings yourself. They're not going to be changing anytime soon, unfortunately. But I've seen some ideas floated around of, take the teams that are currently in the race and then maybe add like a couple play-in games for the teams who are, close in the race as well.
Yeah, that would
Something
be a bad
like
idea.
that.
I just feel like, yeah, they should come up with some sort of solution to give the chance to the teams that were fighting for that last spot. Because there's still 12 games for some of these teams that were left to be played, so.
Yeah, I definitely agree that the NHL should find some way to give those teams a chance. But at the end of the day, even if they end up getting maybe an unfair chance, I think at some point you're just going to have to be like, well, that's the rub, you know?
Yeah.
These are unprecedented times. The last time it happened, the league was like 3 years old, 2 years old, something like that. So at some point, you might just have to be like, well, whatever they choose, that's the rub. It sucks, but man, this was a crazy time for everybody and everything in general, you know?
For sure.
As long as the Sens don't lose their best odds at the draft lottery, I'm happy. Because the last thing I need is for them to pull some lockout stuff where they're like, every team gets a fair percentage. No.
Oh God.
I don't think they would do that, considering that we already played a fair portion of the season, so we have something to go off of, you know?
Yeah, no, they played. Actually, like, I'm surprised how much of the season actually got played. Like, I definitely thought it was less than what they'd actually played. Like, some teams were 70 games in. I guess I was losing track of time.
Yeah, like some of these teams have like 12, 14 games left, and it's like, geez, it doesn't seem like it's been that long at all.
No. I mean, to be fair,
You guys got any other? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, to be fair, it's not like there's much, not much like time goes by when you're watching your team lose every game. So.
Hey, you're a Senators fan. At least you're not Detroit, because wheel team bad, right?
Oh. Wheel team bad.
Yeah. Hopefully they have a bright future ahead of them, at least.
Well, they got some pieces in place for sure, but
They've got Stevie Y as the GM, so hopefully
that's the biggest
there's
piece.
some bright futures ahead for them. But yeah, overall, I think regardless of what happens, I think, looking out for the health of their players and the entire world in general, just looking out for everybody's health is the number one priority. I think it can take place over hockey any day of the week, in my opinion. I mean, you can't really watch or play hockey if you're not around, are you? Or can you?
Nope.
Yeah, as much as it hurts, it's true.
Yeah, it
Not
sucks.
easy yet.
It sucks, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So, unless you guys have any more thoughts, I think we're good to wrap up now. Anything else?
Wash your hands, I guess, and just everybody stay healthy out there.
Yeah, I would hope that a lot of you guys, I would hope that all of you guys wash your hands before. But even at this time, if you wash your hands like a normal person, do it a little bit more often. Just, avoid touching your face. Just keep yourself, try to social distance a little bit. And then
You
just
mean introversion?
try. Huh?
You mean introversion?
Man, this would have been a lot easier for me if it was last year, the year before, because I commuted from home for school, but now I'm living on campus, so it's a little bit more all over the place for me. But yeah, just make sure you keep yourself clean and cleanly. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Just that basic stuff. Just stay safe, everybody, basically. And I think that'll be a wrap for this Jersey Nerds podcast. Thank you guys for listening. You can check us out on anywhere that you can find a podcast, wherever you're listening to this right now. And also check out jerseynerdspodcast.com for news, stories, and updates on the podcast as well. I'm Bpoe. Thank you, Hunter and Chris. And I think that's a wrap. Goodbye, everybody.
See ya.